And we're back. This is Hook and Ladder, week 1 for 2024 season. A lot of crazy stuff's already taking place, huh?
Yeah, it's been week 1, but it kind of feels like week 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, the way things have gone.
Some teams were losing that I don't think should have been losing, and there's already massive disappointment. One team's already finished for the year. They might as well just not play any more games.
Yeah, and I guess we'll go and get started. Missouri knocked off Murray State 51-0 Thursday night, the last Thursday night.
Didn't watch much of this game. I was watching another game last week, but week 1 to me, I try to focus on the games that are actually quality games. Like kudos to Clemson and Georgia, kudos to Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, A&M, LSU, USC. Teams like that played competition. When I was younger, I used to love these games because you're going to see a long touchdown pass. You're going to see long touchdown runs, explosive plays, exciting plays, pick six, punt return for touchdowns, block punts, the whole 9. You name it, you're going to see it. 51-0. The next game we'll talk about is Utah, 49-0. But you kind of...
Little Josh Pate trying to get in on the action
here.
Carry on. You're talking about Utah.
All right, so, you get these guys, you'll see them the first few weeks of the season because they're in mop-up duty. You might not get to see a blowout like this the rest of the season when you start conference play. So you see some of these younger players, and you might not see them for the rest of the year. So yeah, it's exciting for the fans. But the older I get, the more I like an actual game between two quality opponents. You look at the box scores from last year. Auburn was scoring 60 points a game. And then they were getting smoked once they went to conference play by everybody they played for the most part. So it's tough to judge just how good a team is with these games. But I do agree it is fun for the fans.
That's right. And Kansas knocked off Lindenwood.
Never even heard of them.
I don't even know.
48-3.
Yeah. NC State struggled with Western Carolina.
Yeah, this was a good game. I had this on. And, NC State, they kind of do this every year. They're never as good as we think they're going to be. There's always a letdown at some point. Usually it's sooner rather than later. I didn't think they were going to lose this game, but I did think it was going to be a little closer than it was towards the end. But they pulled away. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to really pull away. But they were in danger there for a while.
Yeah. Well, glad they got their act together, and 21 points in the fourth quarter kind of sealed the deal. Oklahoma knocked off Temple 51-3.
Now, I watched this game because I wanted to see how Oklahoma was going to do. I tried to watch Oklahoma and Texas as much as possible. I wanted to see how they would do as SEC teams. They weren't playing SEC opponents, but I just kind of wanted to see how they would do with the SEC. And, Oklahoma looked good. Jackson Arnold looked pretty good. They were given 4 first-half turnovers by Temple, which kind of gave them good field position. And, they had some early season missteps, which I thought could have led to touchdowns and ended up leading to field goals. But I thought overall they looked pretty good. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what happened last Saturday when Georgia knocked off Clemson 34-3. Carson Beck looked like Carson Beck. Defense looked strong. Clemson.
Yeah, the defense looked really good, really fast. I was at this game. Defense looked really, really fast, sideline to sideline. I didn't know how Georgia's defensive line was going to hold up. They had some injuries. Some guys weren't playing in the game. Guys weren't even dressed out. But they held up pretty well. Maffa's a big running back for Clemson. I thought he was going to be able to make hay, and he didn't. First half was a little sluggish. Yeah. Georgia's offense had some plays, and then there'd be a penalty. Then they would have a nice play, and then the next play, there'd be like a handoff. The guy would get dropped behind the line for a few yards. Just kind of stall the drives. They had some explosive plays. Second half, they turned it on. They really didn't have to do a whole lot. Second half, they were just going. I think they scored 4 touchdowns on 5 drives in the second half, and then that was it. So the transfer guys Georgia had looked good. Speaking of transfers, Clemson's not taking any, and they clearly needed them.
That's right.
That's Dabo's thing. He doesn't take transfers. I feel he's going to have to change his stance on that. Nobody's saying you got to bring in 25 guys. But if you're hurting on the offensive line, if you need some help on the defensive backfield because you got a couple of DBs out, bring a guy or 2 in. Oh. Just if you got holes in your team or depth issues, bring a guy in. Nobody's saying you got to make your whole roster transfers like Florida State.
Yeah, well, I guess my question with Clemson is they're supposed to have top 5 talent across the board, and the only thing they've got top 5 to me is their front 7.
Defensively, their front 7 is good, especially the defensive line. Right. They're not really deep, But the first three guys, in the game are really, really good. Number 19, number 11 really gave Georgia some problems. DBs, they had a couple of guys hurt. Wideouts, highly recruited guys, but they're all young dudes. Mm-hmm. I want to say there's a 5-star that's a sophomore. One of the dudes made some plays in the game. Running back, you had ETN, you had Shipley and Maffa, but he's not super dynamic. He's just a big bruiser. He's not going to hurt you in the passing game like those other guys did. Where's the running back? The next guy up. Mm-hmm. Cade Klubnik's pretty good. Got a decent arm. Threw the football well. He can run. I feel they need to run him more. Get the defenses trying to respect his running ability, and then that will open things up. The guy's got wheels, and he can throw on the run. Why not do some rollouts, just some design quarterback runs, just help him out a little bit. I mean, that whole up the middle run, toss sweep, and then some passes, that really wasn't working against Georgia. That being said, they're probably, given what we've seen in the ACC so far, they're not front runners to win the whole thing. I think that'd be Miami. No. But they're definitely in contention.
Yeah, we'll get to Miami in just a minute. Ohio State knocked off Akron 52-6.
They didn't look good early either. Early season mishaps and just not being a cohesive unit. But they turned it on second half of the game. Quarterback play was And as we saw from Syracuse, maybe it wasn't all the quarterback play last year because that kid threw for 3 bills and 4 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Against what I would feel was equal competition. Yeah.
So Oregon had a little bit of a struggle with Idaho Saturday.
Yeah,
24-14.
They didn't look all that good.
And they got a test this weekend when Boise State comes.
They do. And who the dude from Boise State ran for like 306 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Huge game for that guy. And it was close. It was a shootout. It was great. Usually when you see some rushing stats like that, it's a blowout. This was a shootout. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Oregon, I thought they would contend for the Big Ten, and they still might early. But you can't win by 10 against Idaho.
Well,
you got to win by at least 25.
We've seen teams look terrible and then come out the following week and just blow people out. You just never know. Texas knocked off Colorado State 52-0. Arch Manning got in the game.
He looked good. Ewers looked good. The whole team looked good. They brought in a bunch of dudes at wideout from the portal. They lost 3 wideouts to the draft last year. Then they brought in a bunch of dudes. None of them, in my opinion, are as good as the 3 they had last year. We know what Isaiah Bond is all about. He's a very good player. I don't think he's elite like the guys they had last year. Right. Number 2, I forgot his name. He played really well. I think he could be the guy. I think he could probably be that next elite wideout for them. Mm-hmm. But we'll see what happens. But they look good. Defense look good. Offense look good. Kind of what we'd expect to see from the number 4 team in the country.
Moving right along. Bama knocked off Western Kentucky 63-0. Bama does Bama things.
Yeah, and I know they're not going to have a defense like they did the last couple of years. Just too many guys went to the NFL. They lost some guys, to transfer when Saban left. They brought in some good players in the recruiting class, one of them which I think scored 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. That Ryan Williams kid is only 17 years old. I thought Daboll would do, he would do wonders for Milroe, and it kind of seems like he has. Mm-hmm. I think Alabama could probably end up being like a kind of offensive juggernaut like the 2020 Alabama team with not as good of a defense. But we'll see. I think they were my preseason pick to win the national championship.
They do it again. Ole Miss knocked off Furman 76-0 going, actually.
All right. So, this Ole Miss, I didn't watch any of this game. Kind of expected this as well. There's so many of these blowouts we expected. We've seen it year in and year out. Ole Miss is a team that went nuts in the transfer portal. Got some dudes on defense. Got a couple guys on offense.
Schedule's favorable.
Very, very favorable. And they just put up crazy numbers in this game against Furman. Yeah. But did we really learn anything? I don't think we did.
We'll find out more as the week goes.
Yeah, that's kind of like I said earlier. That's what the point of week 1 is. You never really tell.
But this was a Saturday night game. Notre Dame versus Texas A&M in College Station. I thought it was a great game.
Excellent game.
Very close.
Boring as hell. I fell asleep twice during this game. Woke up both times, ironically, to Notre Dame scoring touchdowns, and the announcer was like getting all excited. I was like, oh. Guys running down the field. Like, wake up. In my defense, I've been up since 5 a.m. that day to go to the Georgia game. Yeah. But I watched most of it. Yeah. Was able to catch the end. So good for Notre Dame. Huge win. Texas A&M's not that good. I saw the 20 ranking, and I was like, They lost so many guys to the portal when they
got quarterback problems.
They do. And when the whole NIL thing blew up in their face and all those guys that they paid for bolted elsewhere, I knew they were going to have some issues this year. I think they could be probably 6-6, 7-5 kind of team. Maybe. But still, that's a huge win for Notre Dame, given kind of some of the early season difficult games that they lost last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it sets their schedule up pretty nicely. Penn State knocked off West Virginia 34-12.
Everyone's going crazy about Penn State already, and you think, they're number 8 in the country. They should make the 12-team playoff. I need to see it with Penn State first. Okay, Franklin is not overrated. He's underrated. He's rated exactly where he's supposed to be rated, as like a 2 to 3 loss per year coach. He's basically Mark Richt of the Big Ten, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But to say that, their schedule is another team that has a favorable schedule this year. They don't think they have Ohio State or Michigan on the schedule right now.
I haven't seen their schedule. I haven't looked at it, but it wouldn't surprise me because everybody's schedule kind of got changed with the 12-team playoff. With the Big Ten, did some changes, and they got to keep one rival, and I don't think Penn State really wanted to keep either one of those. No. And who can blame them? But I still need to see it from Penn State. I need to see it from them. I need to see it from James Franklin. I won't believe it until I can see it with my own eyes that they can make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I think they're actually going to have a chance to make the playoffs this year. Everything sets up favorably for their schedule.
It does. It sets up favorably for a lot of these teams. I think are going to make the playoffs and then get absolutely smoked the first game they play.
That's right. Michigan knocked off Fresno State 30-10 in Ann Arbor. Kind of sluggish. Didn't really get a whole lot going. They got a big game this week against Texas.
And, the offense didn't look good. Orgy's not the guy, in my opinion, at quarterback. I think Texas, they got a good defense. But I think Texas is going to be able to put points on the board enough to make the Michigan offense have to keep pace. And I don't think Michigan's offense can do it right now.
I agree with you.
And nothing against Michigan. They won the title last year. Too many dudes are playing on Sundays now.
That's right. Tennessee knocked off Chattanooga 69-3. Tennessee looks pretty good.
I don't know how to pronounce the kid's name. Nico.
Yeah.
I was going to call him Nico. I'm not going to try. It's like DJ Oogly Moogly. Yeah. Okay, he looks like shit. Nico. We'll get to him in a little bit. Yeah. Nico looks good. But Hendon Hooker looked good in these early season games. Milton looked good in these early season games. They all had cannons for arm. They were big, tall guys. Milton was huge. Probably could have been a running back a lot of places. Hooker went massive. He was big. Yeah. Nico's big. I want to see what these teams can do against good competition because we've seen what Tennessee's offense is capable of against inferior competition. Right. When they play an elite defense, they get shut down.
We'll find out. I mean, sooner or later, Tennessee is going to hit it on a quarterback. Just going to push them up the top.
To me, it's not the quarterback play. It's the defense, and it's the offensive line, it's everything else. Mm-hmm. Tennessee, for all the points they put up and how they like to throw the ball around with Josh Heupel's offense, they're a running football team. Right. Their pass is predicated on the run. I think they led the SEC in rushing last year, which not many people realize because they throw the ball around so much. If you can stop them from running the football, you beat them. That's basically what the better teams did the last couple of years.
Oklahoma State knocked off South Dakota State 44-20.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx anything. But could this be the year Oklahoma State turns it around? They got a decent game. They're playing an SEC team this week. I forgot who it was. It's on the top tip of my tongue.
We'll find out in just a second.
Yeah. But could this be the year they put it together? I don't know. We'll just like Penn State. I need to see it. Yeah. Oklahoma, though, different than Penn State. They've been there before. Yeah. They've made the conference championship before. Should have won it.
Yeah.
Didn't, but I still need to see a little more from them. I'd like to see them be really, really good. I'd like to see them maybe be a top 12 team this year. Yeah. Hopefully.
Kansas State knocked off UT Martin 41-6.
Didn't see any of that.
Didn't see any of that. Doesn't matter. Miami looked good. They knocked off Florida 41-17. Cam Ward was throwing sidearm, looked like Bernie Kosar out there.
Miami was another team. I need to see it with my own eyes because everyone's on the Mario Cristobal train. The dude gets interviewed in every podcast during the summer, and then they suck. Kind of felt the same thing was probably going to happen this year. Some teams are just like that. Some coaches like that. Right. But they look good.
Yeah.
Florida sucks. All right? Let's just call a spade a spade. They're not a good football team.
No.
They thought they had some pieces in place to get better. No. They're terrible. Graham Mertz got concussed in this game. They bring in DJ Lagway, throws a pick, but does lead them on a scoring drive. He was announced, I think it was today or yesterday, he'll be the starter until Mertz is back, I guess, or maybe the whole way, the rest of the way. He needs to be the starter the rest of the way.
Right.
They just need to ride him and hope they can win 5 to 6 games. If they win 5 to 6, I bet Billy keeps his job because he can say, look what happened with a true freshman quarterback.
Something to build on
exactly.
more than anything else.
Dude, Miami players are talking to the recruits, being like, don't go here. Don't go here. Come to the U. I mean, Florida, that was almost as rock bottom as you can. I mean, that was just absolute beatdown. It was tied for the worst home loss. And I don't know how long, whatever. But, I mean, that was bad. And I was kind of hoping they would
be respectable?
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to win the game. I thought it would be close, I was like, they had a chance, No, they did not have a chance.
Miami just blew them out of the water. I mean, it's plain as day. Arizona knocked off New Mexico 61-39. I didn't know Arizona was ranked 21.
I did. I knew they were projected to be fairly good this year. Mm-hmm. We'll see how good. Didn't get to watch any of this game, though.
Moving right along. Iowa actually put up 40 points against Illinois State. 2
wide receiver touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So good for them. That's a season worth of points for Iowa. And, dude, if Iowa can score, they might be...
They'll steal a game or two.
Yeah, they might be tough. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Moving right along. Sunday night, USC beat LSU out in Vegas. And that was a pretty good game. USC kind of took over the game late.
Yeah, I watched this game. It was a fun game.
Yes.
First possession, LSU drives down the field, gets 4th and goal, can't score. They go for the touchdowns and the field goal, can't score. Turnover on downs. Both quarterbacks looked really good.
Yes.
I mean, they weren't just on; they were hitting dimes. They were throwing the ball into the wide receiver's hands against perfect coverage. I mean, they were playing phenomenal. The tight ends looked good for both teams. Jason Taylor's kid for LSU, and then Deuce Robinson for USC. Deuce Robinson just looks like a really tall wide receiver. No. He doesn't look like he's big enough to play tight end at the next level, but we'll see. But they look good. I don't think either defense was good, but you could easily tell USC's defense was improved. Mm-hmm. So we'll kind of see how that goes going forward. They're going to face better teams than LSU, overall teams in the Big Ten. Yeah. So we'll kind of see how that goes. People think that they can compete for the Big Ten. Yeah, I think they can put up some points. I'm wondering if they've got the defense, though, to stop a couple of the teams that are going to end up playing. Yeah. But I do believe they'll put up some points on a lot of people.
They'll stick around. They win 10 games this season.
LSU, Brian Kelly's post-game conference, was like, we're talking about the same thing. I'm like, that's the fakest, angry dude I've ever seen in my life. I don't think he was the right guy. I think he's a good coach. Yeah. Dude's won wherever he's gone. I don't think he was the right guy for LSU. And that doesn't mean he can't win a title with them. Even if he wins one, I still don't think he'll be a fit for LSU. He's a dude from freaking Massachusetts or New Hampshire or something like that, down the bayou. Just not going to fit. But
he's a good coach. He can recruit.
That's what was surprising about this game. Their recruiting classes, the last 3, including the one right now that hasn't signed yet, obviously, they're loaded. Why is Perkins still as thin as he is? I feel in his 3rd year he should be like 230, 240 by now. He's still a great player. They misused him last year. We're not going to get into that. Dude was in the middle a lot in the game.
Yes.
Sunday night. I kind of felt he should have been bigger. Probably been plugging the run more so, but disappointing for LSU. Huge win for USC. I mean, that's a massive win for Lincoln Riley. You imagine what it would have been like over there with the recruiting flips and all the crap from last year had they gotten beat by LSU. and now the script is flipped on LSU.
Yeah, and maybe they can get through the September, maybe 4-0, 5-0, and then everything kind of works out. For them. You never know. But LSU, they're already in the hole, and they got to climb out again. It's time to talk about Florida State. Boston College knocked off Florida State.
I've been loving this all week.
28-13. Carry on.
Oh, the memes have been great. The memes have been so much fun this week. And I do like. I don't like DJ. Okay, I didn't like him as Clemson. I thought he was arrogant. He goes to Oregon State,
plays well,
and I kind of, he was all right. Kind of felt the same thing. But hang on, I gotta get a drink.
There was one meme floating around on the Twitters. And there was this kid in the backyard throwing it to his other buddy, and he was just throwing it over his head, like gunning it, like shooting a missile out of his arm.
And the video game from the NCAA football, it's like practice field. It's like DJ's being open, he throws it out of bounds. I mean, I'm not a fan of this guy, but I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
Because you could see in his eyes, it was like, it's not working, and it's the same problems that were the last couple seasons. And I could be wrong. Like, he seemed arrogant to me. I could be completely wrong. He could be a really great guy. But he's not an awesome quarterback. He made some really good throws.
Yeah.
And then he made some throws. I'm like, dude, who you throwing it to? The decision-making.
A little touch pass would have sufficed.
I mean, he missed a wide-open guy in the end zone that would have been a touchdown.
Yep.
I think it would have been either a tying touchdown. The interception was awful. I mean, he just wanted to get rid of it, just flung it up there. In his defense, there was at least 2 drops by the tight end. But defensively, they didn't look so good either. I mean, Boston College was pretty decent offensively. The quarterback gives them a little bit of better dynamic this year with the running ability, but they didn't wow me offensively.
Right.
And Florida State couldn't stop them. They brought in a bunch of transfers. And this is kind of one thing I want to bring up. There are guys on that team. All right, last year they were full of transfers. They went undefeated, won the conference championship, they left out the playoffs, played Georgia. We all saw what happened. They got smoked. Most of those players bolted. They didn't want to stick around. They were transfers. They didn't commit to FSU. They transferred there for a one-and-done year,
right? Maybe
2-and-done year. They didn't choose LSU. Didn't choose FSU because they liked FSU. Out of high school. They didn't buy in, and there's nothing wrong with that. In the transfer portal era, you can catch lightning in a bottle like that and have a great season. But there are guys on that roster right now playing that transferred after last season. One of them's a defensive end, edge rusher guy. I'm not going to mention his name or where he came from, but he played at a school that has NFL scouts at practice every day. In the games, you're going against draft picks on the offensive line and practice every day. Practice is harder than the games. If you stuck around, you're going to get noticed. He played pretty good, pretty good Monday night. And I just kind of feel like some of these guys are going to get lost in the shuffle if they have a crap season. When if they just stayed where they were and worked their butt off, they could maybe have a future after college. And I think some of these guys are just going to kind of fade into the sunset.
Well, these guys are transferring and never establish themselves at a place. There's like old school Georgia quarterbacks like a Joe Cox and people like that who didn't have a career in the NFL, but they had jobs lined up for them doing this and that in the area. And these guys are not going to have any like boosters that are going to help them out later on.
Yeah, they're just a one and done, and then if they don't pan out, if they don't perform the way you hoped they would, they kind of get forgotten.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything against the transfer portal at all.
Yeah. But loyalty has its value.
It does, but there are just cases where it's like, dude, you're leaving a program like Alabama to go to like
a second-tier school.
See how guy leaves Alabama and goes to Illinois State, and it's like, all right, you might not catch 110 passes a season at Alabama, but you're going to get noticed probably a lot more than if you're playing Illinois State.
That's right. You get lost in the shuffle.
Yep.
You might be a third-round talent, but you may not even get drafted because nobody knows who you are.
On the flip side, guys won't leave because they want playing time. Right. I get it, but there are certain players, certain guys that fit with certain teams that I felt should stick around. I mean, if you're a Georgia player on defense, stick around. Yeah. It's going to behoove you to stick around.
to Florida State. They have all of Florida. They have South Georgia, South Alabama, and the Mississippi where they can recruit and pretty much have open reign on what they can pull out. And it just doesn't seem like they're getting there and they're doing it. They just can't compete.
They need to give, Norvell, people like, oh, he's in the hot seat now. They're 0-2. Like, they're done. They're 0-2 in the conference.
Yeah.
No, he's not on the hot seat.
Not yet.
This is what happened with Florida. This is why Florida State's in the position they're in now as well. They keep getting rid of coaches. You got to at least let a guy have, like, a while. As long as you're not going, 3-9,
It's an arms race, and you're either in a program that's climbing the ranks or you're falling behind, and Florida State's falling behind quickly. I guess we talk about Colorado upended North Dakota State 31-26. Shedeur Sanders.
That was. I thought North Dakota State was going to give him some problems.
Yeah, and it did.
Shedeur looked like Shedeur. I still don't think he's that great of a quarterback. Travis Hunter's a great wide receiver. They got good wideouts. They got good guys to throw the football. I think only Travis Hunter is probably elite, top end NFL talent. The rest of them are just good players. Yeah. They kind of remind me of like the Oregon players of old. They'll get that like 5'9" slot guy out of Texas that is really fast, but nobody really gives. Doesn't have any offers from like Texas or Alabama or Oklahoma, and Oregon was giving them a chance. And I kind of feel like Colorado's getting those kind of kids, and nothing wrong with that.
But can they win in the trenches? And that's what their problem is.
They got a couple of transfers that played well. They're in a different conference.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk, but I think they can. I'm picking Utah to win the thing. But, Colorado should, I look at the schedule, they should win at least 8 games.
We'll see. I mean, who knows? North Carolina against Minnesota. North Carolina beats them 19.
Max Johnson broke his leg in the game, so their season's probably done.
Let's see what else in the other game we want to talk about that we haven't spoken about
We got anything on Friday? Anything good? Obviously, Oklahoma, although that was last Friday.
That was last Friday.
So we've got BYU plays this Friday. I think that's the only real game for this week.
Well, okay.
Like for Friday night.
Okay. So I guess we'll move into, this week's matchup.
Noon kickoff, Texas, Michigan. That's going to be the game.
That's the game of the weekend for sure.
And it's at noon. Oh, my God almighty. Fox.
They got to have that noon start time.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my friggin' life. All the Michigan fans we love it, big noon. That shit's dumb. Nobody wants to see that crap at noon.
That's prime time.
That's a prime time game. Some poor bastard is going to get dragged to a wet bridal shower with his wife, and he's going to miss half the game because that dumb shit starts at noon. They need to ban that. Play the cupcakes at noon.
That's right. Moving right along. Penn State taking on Bowling Green at noon.
That game should be at noon.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oklahoma State,
Arkansas. That's going to be a good game, man.
It's a nooner.
Arkansas looked good. We'll see if
that's quite the
Big
matchup.
Suey can do anything, but I still expect Oklahoma State to win the game.
Both teams look good this past weekend. We'll see what they can do. Kansas State, Tulane. Tulane may give them a scare. Tech's got Syracuse. That's a big matchup. Tech could be 3-0.
Yeah, and I want to see more of Syracuse. They got Fran Brown as coach. Yeah. They brought in some kids from Georgia, and they got the QB from Ohio State who looked really, really good last week. I'm interested to see what they can do. ACC's no cakewalk, especially for them, but I do believe they've upgraded in talent over what Syracuse would normally have. I mean, the quarterback situation alone is a massive upgrade.
Right.
They upgraded at defense. They upgraded at wide receiver. I expect some not big things from Syracuse. I expect them to be pretty darn good this year.
I would go with all that. Georgia's got Tennessee Tech, too. We'll be there for that. We can get a ticket for $35. Notre Dame's got Northern Illinois at 3:30 on the Peacock.
This game right here, I'm going to have some friends at Baylor at Utah. One of my an old boss is a Utah season ticket holder. One of my current team members at where I work is a Baylor grad, so he's going out there to the game. They're going to go to the game together. So I'm going to miss this game, but it would definitely be one I would watch. I expect Utah to handle them pretty easily. but still be a fun game to watch. At least it's a Power 5 matchup.
That's right. Iowa State.
That's going to be a cool game.
Yes, absolutely.
I expect Iowa to shut him down, but still a pretty good game.
Yeah, maybe we'll see some more of that offense they showed over the weekend. Louisville's got Jacksonville State. 3:30. Ole Miss, Middle Tennessee.
Another cupcake for Ole Miss. Expect another 69 to 70 points.
Miami's got Florida A&M. Ooh, 88 degrees. You get a ticket for $20 in Miami. Huh. Alabama's got South Florida.
Yeah, South Florida almost took it to them last year. I don't expect that to happen this year at all. I expect Alabama to roll.
Missouri has Buffalo coming to town. Pretty interesting. Let's see. Kansas gets Illinois. Big game.
I'm on the Illinois train this year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, Jerry. We got Ohio State and Western Michigan at 7:30 on the Big Ten Network. 75 degrees.
NC State, Tennessee at NC State. That'd be a good game at 7:30 at night. Probably be able to get home in time to catch the second half of that game.
Hustle up and get here. LSU against Nicholls State. Probably looking to bounce back. Probably blow them out pretty good. Houston against Oklahoma.
Probably watch some of that game as well, second half.
Maybe Clemson get right against App State.
I'll probably watch a little bit of that game just so I can laugh at Clemson.
And a deceptively good game at 10 o'clock is going to be Boise State, Oregon. I am curious how this one goes.
I will be watching, probably if I'm going to fall asleep because they go to the stupid game at noon. Well, not at noon, it's 2 o'clock kick, but got to get up crack of dawn.
Yeah. Northern Illinois against Arizona. Be 9 degrees in Tucson.
And then USC, Utah State, probably just catch the highlights. I'll probably record that game and then watch it Sunday morning.
Okay. I guess that concludes this week's games. There's 2 or 3 decent games on the slate this week, and I think starting next week the games really get interesting real fast.
Yeah, we're not going to really find out a whole lot after this week either. I guess we're going to see what Texas and Michigan are made of. That's going to be a great game. I always like Texas playing those Big Tens. They had that home and home against Ohio State a couple years back with Vince Young. But that game will kind of tell us a lot whether or not either team can rise to the top. But the rest of the schedule,
Yeah, is what it is.
Like you said, next week we'll really start getting into some decent games.
And then I think this year every guy's got 2 bye weeks at least, so it'll be interesting. So I guess that concludes this week's slate of games. We'll see you guys next week.
That's it.